Welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Podcast, hosted by CRM technology and sales process expert Christopher Smith, talking with sales leaders that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Listen to find out how the best of the best achieve success with their team and CRM technology. And remember, unless you are the lead dog, the view never changes.
Welcome to Sales Lead Dog. Today I have joining me Reed Perryman. Reed is Vice President of Sales for RCN Technologies. Reed, welcome to Sales Lead Dog.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Really excited. Funny enough, first podcast ever. Always
Awesome.
intrigued by being on one, but when the invite slipped in, I consulted some folks and then I said, you know what? Why not? Sounds
Oh,
like a
yeah.
great
I love
idea.
it. I love it. I'm glad you took the lead. Tell me a little bit about RCN Technologies.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate that. So RCN, we are a small business located in Knoxville, Tennessee. We're about 11 years old at this point, and we're in tech. Specifically, our little corner of tech that I tell people is wireless WAN, which is a highly technical term translated into wireless internet connectivity. So what we do for our business and government clients on a day in, day out basis, Chris, is we partner and consult with them to understand where is traditional wireline connectivity failing you.
Yeah.
Typically it fails, it's unavailable, it's unreliable, it's too expensive. And we overcome those business problems with wireless connectivity fueled by the likes of T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, so on and so forth. So there is a lot more physics involved typically in optimizing that connection for the customer, but the business applications and payoffs are typically immense for the customer, not being locked to a terrestrial solution and moving to a wireless solution. So that's who we are. It's what we do. Multiple Inc. 5000 list makers. Very proud of that. But that's our little corner of the technology industry. We find
That's
ourselves.
awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to you describe all that to me, and I'm thinking, okay, if I own a business or I'm a leader of a business, why would I reach out and call you guys? What am I looking for? What business problems would you solve for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So the most foundational one is backup internet. A lot of people, especially people in our professions, in sales, maybe it is B2B sales like RCN. Maybe it's as simple as a quick service restaurant where you've got clerks at a cash register and a line of hungry patrons.
Yeah,
If your internet goes down, you're dead in the water. You
yeah,
can't transact with customers, you can't receive phone calls. It's really crippling.
yeah,
So people often contact us because they know they have a problem. They're over reliant on a landline that's failing them,
yeah,
and they have a true revenue bleed when it
yeah,
fails. Another application, and what's common, especially in the government, let's take a police department or a fire department. They have a computer in their vehicle, they have a need for mission critical communications, and using cellular is a lot more feasible than a wired connection to a car, as you can
yeah,
imagine. So
yes,
that's just another common use case in our industry, why people contact us. The rest is there's so many what I call wireline junkies out there. Been doing a wired internet connection so long that wireless seems like black magic.
yeah.
What is it? We don't understand it. We're uncomfortable. We're the experts. We try to consult them to the best possible outcome while
Yeah,
making.
you only have to lose connectivity once and you're not able to transact business, you're like never again.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's because you're screwed. It's like you're not making any money. Only has to happen once.
Absolutely. That's we love keeping people connected.
Yeah. Reed, you've had a great progression in your career at RCN. When you look back over the years, um, could you nail down to three or boil it down to three areas that you feel really have driven and led to your success? What are those three areas?
I have this mentality, Chris. It's a great question that I've lucked into my career. And it's a really hard question to boil it down to exactly three things. So I'm going to give it my best shot. First, my boss, my owner here at RCN. I report directly to him. I always have for my entire 8-year career here. He's been a mentor, he's been a coach, he's a serial entrepreneur. And when I look at working in a small business for 8 years, working for an entrepreneur, a coach that was willing to give me a chance and invest, teach me what he knows. I always liken it to a world-class MBA. There's no classroom I could have sat in that would have taught me as much as I know about sales, about marketing, about finance, which is the language of business. So that's been a huge quantum leap for me, if you will. The second thing, I just have this personality. Maybe it's a flaw. Maybe it's just a quirk. Maybe it's to my benefit. I don't know, but I put such an immense pressure on myself to achieve. And it's not that I'm a slave to achievement. It's just that I have this posture that I always want to compete with myself, compete with my last best. If it's last year, I want to do better this year. If it's last month, I want to do better this month. And that extends to every realm of my life, including my home life, my marriage, my friends, etc. And then finally, and I kind of already talked about it, it's working for a small business. And I think a lot of kids get the idea out of college, I got to work for an enterprise or I failed. The logo has to be sexy or I failed. I'm not getting my ROI. But like I said, working in a small business has been a world-class MBA. And I got to say, I'm doing really well off compared to a lot of my peers that work in enterprises. Is it tougher? Are the hours longer? Yes, but I'm challenged and I'm growing every single day.
Yeah, I as an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, I can relate to a lot of what you're saying, and I've often looked back saying, did because of the path I went on, there are people that I talked to here on Sales Lead Dog that went to like General Electric. I just did an episode with a woman who started her career at General Electric, went through tremendous training program and all that. And I think that's what it boils down to. Um, it's not that, hey, I'm part of a big enterprise or I'm part of a startup. It's, am I going to have a leader that can be that mentor, that be that coach, that can give me the learning opportunities as well as the ability to fail and fall on my face and then pick me back up again and point me in the right direction. To me, that's that common denominator, that thing that really people need to be looking for.
I tell people all the time, I was given a really long runway and I was given the grace and the investment to fly and fail and fly again. So I like the myth of Icarus, right? Weird left turn Greek mythology, but he flew too close to the sun, fell. I like the redemptive part of that story. My boss has allowed me to fly again when I fly too close to the sun.
That's right.
But as long as I'm falling forward, that's really the spirit I try to instill in my team here.
Oh yeah, yeah. Fall forward, fail fast, learn, adjust, move on.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what it all comes down to. And then it's, I should say it surprises me. It really doesn't anymore. But one of the common themes I see too in as I do the podcast, interview so many great sales leaders, so many of them, their first answer is like yours, I had a great mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And how important that is in developing not only ourselves, but future leaders. You can't do it alone.
I think that sales leaders have the biggest duplicative or multiplicative impact out there if we're not taking what we've learned and imprinting that and nurturing the future sales generations, then everybody's just starting from scratch. So I didn't know I needed that when I got into this, Chris. I
Right.
got that. And like I said, have received a world-class MBA along the way and am just eager to grow my team and see where they land when
Yeah.
they fly and fail and fly again.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you're in college, were you envisioning a future in sales?
Chris, absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact, my vision of sales was probably a majority of non-sales people out there in the market. I thought sleazy used car dealer. I thought retail associate that won't leave me alone. I'm a pretty independent guy. Leave me alone. I know exactly what I'm after when I go in the store. If I need you, I'll come find you.
Yeah.
Don't bother me. So that was my idea of sales going into it. I actually studied broadcast journalism in college. I thought I wanted to be a newscaster.
Right.
And it was great. There were all these people affirming me, you've got the presence for it, you've got the voice for it. But when I actually did it for a year in college at University of Tennessee, it was just really backbreaking work. It was long hours, graveyard shift. It was dog eat dog. And to really make a life out of it, you had to be nomadic, move a lot, and you had to probably compromise your morals one day on what you believe to be true.
Yeah.
And it would take years to
Yes.
get where you'd like. So I decided, you know what? I had started dating my then wife, and I had all these great friends in college. Let's graduate with a degree. That's marketable,
Right.
right? I'm gonna
Right.
go find what's out there. So I actually went through a pretty daunting 7 month process to land here, in which I did gig jobs. I started my own side hustle and did everything I could to try to pay my own bills and prove that I wasn't the worthless son
Right.
that didn't get a job out of college. And I met RCN at a career fair. Funny story. I was late because of another interview. 10 minutes left in the career fair. They were the only ones not packing up. All these big, sexy logos, they're packing up, they're out of there. Small business RCN, they weren't. Talked to them. Finally, after 3 months of follow-up, met the team, was interviewed on the spot.
Yeah.
My boss thought I was a smart kid, and
Mhm.
he was consulted by our big partner. You guys should get into government sales. And he thought I was the right man for the job. I didn't have any sales experience, Chris, no government sales experience. My tech experience extended to my iPhone, my laptop, and my PS4.
Yeah.
So it was really start from zero for me at
Oh
our.
man, big time. Hey, that's a leap of
Yeah,
faith. Holy cow.
yeah, yeah. It was sales found me. That's what I tell people. It found me.
That's awesome. I'm sort of thinking about that, okay, so when he's hiring you, is he thinking like, all right, well, I don't know if there's a market here or not, so let's throw this kid at it, see what he can do. Or if he saw something in you that, hey, there's a market here, maybe this kid can do it. Doesn't really matter. You did it, right?
Yeah, it took a while to do it, and that's why I point to my boss as the number one contributing factor to my success. It took about a year to do it,
Yeah.
to actually put any significant revenue on the board. So yeah, big roll of the dice. And then really about month 16 to 18
Yeah.
is when our sales in the government division started taking off. And today it's about 70% of our gross receipts.
No
So
kidding. That's amazing.
it was a bet that really worked out.
Yeah.
I haven't ever set him down and said, "Why'd you do it?"
Right.
Maybe he's got some secret sauce, some madness there that worked
Right.
out.
Right.
Serial entrepreneur, he's used to taking risk.
That's pretty cool. I love that. That's a great story. So you're succeeding, you're demonstrated success, delivering revenue for the company. Tell me about when you got tapped on the shoulder that says, "Hey, we think you're ready to consider leadership, a leadership role." Tell me about that.
Yeah, that actually happened right around the time that revenue started taking off. When I joined, there were only about 14 employees with the company. Today, we're about 50 employees, give or take.
Yeah.
And we were only in about year four, year five of our inception. So we had hunger to grow. We were growing. And I was tapped early on as really party of one in our government sales division to scale that effort to include a headcount. I hired my first rep in what was it? It was Labor Day. It was right after Labor Day in 2018. He started and was with me for about 4 years after that. Really proud of his start in the business. But I think it was just by necessity of
Mhm.
scale, which is also why I'm passionate about small businesses,
Yeah.
because necessity of scale means opportunity for you to grow into leadership and to lead people. So I really think it was just, okay, we have a successful program. We rolled the dice, it's working. How can we scale it? And we've got a party of one to scale it that has all this specialized government sales knowledge. It has to be him.
Yeah. So tell me, when you're hiring, whenever I'm hiring someone, probably, I don't know, 80, 90%, I'm looking at the immediate need I have now. Um, Maybe it's not quite that high, but I also want to know that they can grow into future roles, like potentially leadership roles. What part of that factors in their ability to become a future leader factors into your hiring decision?
Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more important to me, Chris. I'm a young leader. I just turned 31 in October. I realize that I'm very lucky to be where I am. Part of that skill, part of it's luck. I don't care. I'm here. I'm very fortunate. And it's becoming more important to me to groom future leaders. I've gone a while without a true middle manager. I'm VP. I need a sales manager to deal with the day to day so I can move up and focus on strategic direction of our business, unlocking quantum leaps in value and new blue oceans of opportunity for our business. I can't do that when I'm down in the day to day nitty gritty. So it's becoming more important. You asked what's important for me to identify. I think I have a profile of rep that I look for. I think that that profile includes a competitive spirit. It includes a humility to learn, to evolve, that constant hunger to redefine, to iterate, to fail, to fly, to fail again. They can't be conflict averse. Wrong profession if you're conflict averse. If you're sweaty palmed picking up a phone to cold call, or you're afraid of a customer objection, this is not the industry for you. It's not in your DNA. So I really have to pull this out of people during the interview process. And I don't know if I'm identifying anything at this point. Okay, you're a great candidate for leadership, other than you might have done it before.
Mhm.
But what I'm looking at when they're in the program is number one, you have to prove that you can do it if people are going to follow you. I can't promote a loser. They
Right.
have to do the job, they have to hit quota.
Yep.
No one's going to follow someone that they don't perceive as a winner.
Yep.
Secondly, from that point, I have to ask them, do you even want to lead? Because sales is not for everybody. So those are the two, that's the general profile to hire on. And then from there, it's about leading, coaching, mentoring them to sales success, and then having them be honest with themselves about, would you rather stay course A, individual contributor, or course B, move into leadership?
Yeah, I remember when I was coming out of college, I was all focused on, hey, I want to be a young VP because I thought that's success. That's when I'm a make it when I get my first VP title. And there's a lot of hard lessons in that. So it's you mentioned, are you right for leadership? When you're young, everyone thinks they're right for leadership, or if they're at least ambitious, they do. How do you develop that clarity or help people develop that clarity about whether or not leadership is the right decision for someone?
Sure, absolutely. And I think the foundational premise is that it's absolutely not for everyone. And I think there's this current in America, whether it's coming out of high school, whether it's coming out of college, university, where you equate success with title, you equate success with money. And there's certainly ground to stand on there, Chris. But at the end of the day, leadership isn't always the path to success for you. And you have to have the DNA for it. And I think the biggest linchpin is, are you the hero or are you the hero maker? Right? Because there's a big difference there. I had to learn early on that not everybody's me. I had a very particular way of doing things that made me successful. I can't force feed that down my whole team's throat. And I also had to learn early on that choosing leadership meant that I'm intentionally capping my pay or limiting my pay. I tell my team all the time, you want to make the most money as possible at RCN Technologies. You stay an individual contributor because A, I'll never cap you on your comp plan. Very important to me. You earn every penny you sell according to the comp plan with no cap. Secondly, it's all up to you. You get to do it. It's not up to anybody else.
Right.
You come to my side of the aisle and your pay is proportional to the team's result all of a sudden because you're not on a comp plan, you're on a bonus plan. Big difference, buddy.
Oh yeah.
You better know you want to do that. So those are just, opening the conversation on, is leadership right for you? These are some of the outsets of what I had to learn, hard pills I had to swallow.
Yeah.
What I tell my team all the time: individual contributor, maximize pay. Leadership, you're going to be more challenged, longer hours. You're going to have a bonus plan that you're going to hit or you're going to miss. And again, the linchpin is hero or hero maker. Which one do you want to be? Because the hero is going to equate you failing every single time as
Yeah.
a leader.
And a key component to that is, for an individual that's considering that transition into leadership is, what are my life goals? What is truly important to me? I know for me, I love teaching. I love teaching people. I love developing people. It's a huge part of my personality. I get a tremendous amount of self-satisfaction from that. Not everybody's like that. And to me, that's a key component of being a leader is you need to be able to teach and transfer knowledge.
Mhm.
Um, so when you sit down with people, most sales leaders, I think, really to get to know people, they want to understand what their goals are. Where do you want to be in 3 years, 5 years, whatever? How do you do that with your team?
Yeah, I think that you absolutely have to get to know your team. I mentioned earlier one of my early on mistakes, trying to force my expectation on other people. Only I am me. That's not going to work with different people, with different upbringings, different motivations, personalities, so on and so forth. So, what I like to do, especially when I have a new rep, is take time to maximize the onboarding experience, have just as much training, teaching as personal time. Hey, let's go out to lunch several times. Hey, let's go out to dinner several times. Let's get to know each other on a personal basis because that's going to allow me to build a profile for this rep. Here's what's important. Here's what's not important. Here's what your life goals are. And I think it's hard to uncover that in the interview because people are on their best behavior, people are selling. But once the trust is established and that wall drops, then you can really get to know where people want to be in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I think the other part, at least in terms of leadership and tapping leaders in my org, is just always bluntly setting that expectation. Like I've said, that you want it all to be on you. You want to make the most money. You're here. Are you motivated by stewardship, coaching, mentoring, growing people? Are you more motivated by legacy? I think even that's probably the leadership route for you. And we just have those dialogues as
Yeah,
much as I can. I'm always getting more intentional about
yeah,
that.
that's great. Um, you mentioned one of your early difficulties in developing as a leader. What is a current struggle or current thing that you're working on to develop your leadership skills,
So just to clarify the question, my own leadership skills.
your own leadership skills? What's something you're doing today to become a better leader?
The number one thing that I'm doing today, I am voraciously reading today. There's not a moment that goes by. So, not just reading, but also consuming business related content.
Mhm.
And I have multiple channels, whether it's a podcast like this one, I have multiple podcasts that range from personal fitness, which is going to impact my mental clarity, performance, and mood on a day to day basis, to entrepreneurship. And there are some media outlets on YouTube that have great content on entrepreneurship that focus mainly on how did you conceive the idea? How did you bring it to life? What are your challenges? How do you monetize? How do you market? I love that because even if it's not even remotely my industry, it shows me how people are being creative to unlock blue ocean opportunities. I get up at 4:30. And from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock in the morning, that's audiobook time. And I'm sitting at my kitchen table. I have notes. If I'm not doing that, I'm at the gym during that time block. And when I'm in my car, if I'm not using it as peace and quiet, clear my mind, I'm using it to consume content that adds value to my daily life.
Yeah,
So I need the marketplace of ideas out there constantly spinning my wheels, getting my gears turning so I can ideate and I can innovate within this organization, ultimately so I can create more opportunity for my people. And I take that seriously. It's really at my level all about opportunity for my people.
That's awesome. I love that. See, that's the thing that I think a lot of people when they're young thinking, hey, I want to be a leader, they don't understand, or you don't understand yet. So many are getting up at 4:30 and doing this work that nobody ever sees. Um, because that's what it takes. I love listening to sports radio.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to remember who it was talking about there's one of the guys, former Patriot, where um, they won the Super Bowl. Next day or like next couple of days, he's in the office. Just he's the only one there. Went in to pick something up at their facility, and who's out practicing his footwork and throwing and all that's Tom Brady.
Right.
No one else is there. They just won the Super Bowl, and he's out there working, and that just blew his mind. And it's like that's how you become the GOAT. And
Absolutely.
Kobe Bryant, there's tons of stories about Kobe Bryant doing that. All these guys, that Patrick Mahomes, all these people that people think like, oh, they've got this God-given talent. Yeah, they do, but there's a crap load of hours alone doing really hard work that got them where they are.
Well, Chris, to your point, I think talent only takes you so far
Yeah,
in life. I think doing a personal inventory and knowing where your talents lie and marketing yourselves in those areas, that's smart, right? But
yeah,
they're only going to take you so far.
yeah.
I call it being a genius of hard work
That's right.
because you really have to do that. And again, if you want to progress to achieve your goals in life, whether that's leadership or not, right? You can trust that there's always someone out there outworking you. And you need to compete with yourself truly
Mhm.
every single day. If
Yep.
you look at the macro view, man, I want to be this in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, too big of a time horizon. If you say, I want to do a little bit better than I did yesterday, and I'm crazy, right? Just to give you an example, it took me 15 minutes to shower today, so I have 5 less minutes audiobook time this morning.
Yeah.
Can I shower in 11
Right.
tomorrow
Yeah.
and earn 4 minutes back? That's the level of compete with myself day to day. Maybe I'm crazy. My wife would probably say that, but I'm just really driven to to get a lot out of life.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I can relate to that. We all have to find our own ways to motivate. And it's going to change for you. This is what you're doing today. A year from now, it's probably going to be doing something different, because you can't always stay with one thing. We plateau. And you have to continuously be looking for that thing that's going to replenish that fire in your belly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, um, what's the toughest part about your job?
The toughest part about my job is truly having to sit at my level and know that I'm graded on the results of other people and having to sit and own that. I was the kid in the group project that was the hero. I wasn't the hero maker for every group member so everyone could contribute and feel like it was a team effort. And all I did was teach those kids that someone was always going to come in and save the day
Right.
for them.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest part of my job. I carry that into adulthood, sitting back on the sidelines and having to coach and advise and mentor and allow other people to achieve the results, knowing full and well my pay is going to be contingent on that. It's very hard. The second thing I'd say, Chris, when you get into managing people, it's managing emotions. And I think a lot of first time managers don't understand that. There's so many emotions. I had a guy that we promoted into manager, and since then, we actually put him back into an individual contributor position, and he was relieved. Honest to God, he was relieved.
Yeah.
He wasn't ready for the level of emotion he was going to have to deal with and sift through.
Yeah.
And what I've learned after right around 6 years of doing it, kind of have a personal code for myself. Stay calm, maintain control.
Yeah.
Not that I'm unflappable and unreadable. I can modulate according to the occasion, but I'm always focused on staying centered and calm. So those two things definitely the hardest part of my job, because sometimes I just want to look at my team and saying, "You're acting like a bunch of damn kids."
Yeah. Oh,
Over
yeah. 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 One of the hardest things for me personally was, especially as being an entrepreneur, you want to control everything. And developing that realization, I actually control very little. And accepting that. And once I was able to do that, that really helped me modulate my emotions that, the world's not on fire. There's tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to come. Let's focus on what we can control, impact that. Everything else is going to take care of itself. And that's helped me tremendously modulating my emotions.
Chris, if I had to bet, I'm willing to bet that you reached a point in your companies where you had that left hand, that right hand in terms of leaders, and you had mentored them and coached them, and they got to an operational plane where they had it. And you could sit back and focus on the vision and how
Yeah.
you arrived there
Yeah.
holistically.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. Shifting the conversation. CRM, do you love it or do you hate it?
Chris, I have a love-hate relationship
Most
with
do.
CRM. And it has a lot of benefits. It has a lot of setbacks. And the number one thing I'm always grading my CRM, at least in context of my sales team, how are you burdening my sales team's time? Because that's the scarcest resource they have.
Exactly.
And how much, I call it the burden of clicks.
Yep.
How much is the CRM creating a burden of clicks for my team
Yep.
versus allowing them to maximize their time, creating, advancing, and closing opportunities for us?
Yeah. That's perfect way to sum it up. I like to say I reframe it a little differently in that, is CRM enabling us or is it an anchor slowing us down? And it should be a tool that's enabling things. And I deliberately choose the word a tool. It's a tool. It's not going to solve all your problems. There's no perfect CRM out there, but it should be enabling your team, not slowing them down because they have to fill out 200 fields, of which maybe 3 really matter.
Right.
And to me, that's what separates a good CRM, or one of the key elements that separates a good CRM versus a sucky CRM.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. I have a story about that actually. It's interesting being in a small business. And when our company started, our owner and the other sales reps, they had a folder-based system where they would create a customer sheet, and
Yeah.
that would be the customer's folder,
Yeah.
right? Well, they invested in our CRM in late game 2016. And so our CRM records go back to 2016.
Yeah.
Beyond that, nothing exists. It's in a folder in a box somewhere.
Right.
So we actually, one of the challenges is that so many people had their hands in the pot architecting the most important form in our entire CRM, the opportunity form, because that's how we're tracking funnel. So many people over so many years had their hands in adding fields, and no one seemed to go back through and remove the fields that were bloat and
They
dead
never
weight.
do.
And it ended up being this massive new op generation form that was probably, I kid you not, like 70 fields long. I didn't mind it because I mastered it,
Right.
because I lived through it for so long.
Yeah.
And it's not until this year, our information systems team, which is burdened with system CRM improvement, they went through and said, hey, I think we can reduce the burden of clicks for your team dramatically. Now, did we lose some stuff in that? Yeah, there was some collateral damage. We're still working through it. But my team has probably, no joke, Chris, probably 70 to 80 less clicks now.
Oh yeah, that's huge. It's absolutely huge. And that's a thing that, I've told this story many times on Sales Lead Dog, but we had a client when we started working with them, I'm not kidding you, they had over 300 fields on their opportunity. And we went through and analyzed it. The vast majority had either 0% utilization, and like over 90% had less than 3%. And that when you looked at the timeline of when those actually were populated, it was like 4 years ago when those fields were originally created and haven't been touched since then, and so to me, that happens exactly what you said. Someone says, oh, hey, we need these fields. They use it for 3 months, whatever. And then people are like, oh, this is a pain. It's not helping us. They stop using it, but nobody ever takes that stuff away. And that's where good CRM, I tell people this all the time, it has to evolve with the needs of the business and align to the strategic goals of the business. Otherwise, because those are always changing. So your CRM has to keep pace. Um,
Yeah.
what would you say your number one benefit of CRM is right now?
I think it's different for my team versus me, right? Because we have two different functions. For my sales team and my marketing team, because I lead both efforts in addition to a product team as well. But my sales team, it keeps them organized. They can go in, they can visualize their funnel, they can keep track of updates, and they can plan their daily activity around it. So to your point, it's a tool. It's a tool to stay organized. And I mentioned earlier, their most valuable currency is their time.
Yep.
And you have to be organized if you're going to maximize your most scarce resource, your time.
Yep.
I even remember using our CRM in a non-optimal state, much less than it is today. And I was able to just stay completely organized using it. Now, I was disciplined enough to stay organized and input the notes and the burden of clicks, but that's the number one unlock for them today. For me, it's pattern recognition, data analysis. Not that I want to be a report warrior and be a keyboard warrior and demand things from my sales team. I actually like to get personal and involved with them when we have to make changes based on trend lines. And I show them and I walk them through the impact of the trend line as well. But for me, it's, for example, my data analytics guy pulled a report for me that I asked, and I said, okay, Mark, look at our lead sources and pare it down to just our referral partner-based resources. And let's look at the specific wireless carrier groups, because the big wireless carriers have business units, they refer us business. And let's see the trend pattern over time. And so we're in a state of attrition right now for every single wireless carrier since 2022 when it crescendoed to today. There's something that we're not doing. Some of it's market conditions, some of it's emergence of new competitors, some of it's how they've changed their go-to-market. But fundamentally, there's something we're not doing today that we did then. And I'm going, there's a leak. We got to go patch it. We can't let that continue.
Yeah. And that's what CRM, a key component of CRM is if you are setting it up the right way and you're tracking the data the correct way. I love that you're tracking referral sources. I see so many that companies we come in to help with CRM are not. And so they're not able to do that type of analysis. Because they haven't been capturing that information. Now they realize, hey, we've got a problem. They're screwed because they don't have the data to go in and actually analyze and develop a strategy of hey, let's try this and see if it works, and try to recoup some of that business. You're left throwing mud at the wall.
Absolutely. Chris, I think I've spent a lot of time this year talking about this concept of data fidelity.
Yeah.
How is our data, how are we maintaining quality, high fidelity? Because crap in is crap out. We've always heard that, right? And we're on the seesaw constantly of how can we trust our team to input the right data versus how can we monitor that data and manage that data better. And we are looking all the time at, well, what's important for the sales teams to contribute, and what's important from a revenue forecasting and reporting function, and how can we create if-then logics and mandatory field requirements that are as universal as possible without creating false ops, right? Or bum data points in there. So I don't want to zero when I could just have an if-then function that doesn't even represent the field at all. So there's that piece. But then we also look at, well, through our order booking system and our quoting system, the two are actually linked. How can we trigger a lot of our data fidelity from a sales order level versus a CRM sales rep, la-di-da, I'm going to input this and this is going to be my initial impression of the opportunity. I'm never going to go back 5 iterations later on that quote and update the data.
No,
right?
no, I talk about that all the time, that it has to be in the moment. Like everyone says, oh, hey, I've created this contact. I'll come back later and add in whatever I didn't put in the first time. No one ever does. Never happens. And so you have to do it in the moment and just own it. And you're helping the whole team when you do that. So Reed, I could keep going on. There's so much we could talk about, but what our time here on Sales Lead Dog. Really appreciate you coming on. If people want to reach out, connect with you, they want to learn more about RCN Technologies, what's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. So a couple different ways. First and foremost, direct link to myself, 2 ways. First, hit me on LinkedIn. Just search Reed Perryman. In fact, if you Googled my name, it's probably the top hit on Google. So very easy to find and connect with me there. I would ask, qualify your message, right? Say that you heard me on this podcast. I'll be more incented to respond. I get 1 million messages a day. It helps me sift through the garbage, so to speak. Secondly, my email, pretty simple. It's just reed@rcntechnologies.com. That's REED@rcntechnologies.com. Then finally, you could go to our website, rcntechnologies.com, and you could get a hold of me through our general email distro. So all ways, viable ways, Chris, they're probably, if I guess, are going to be in the show notes.
They will definitely be in the show notes. You can get those. If you didn't catch that information, no need to hit rewind. Just go to impellercrm.com/sales lead dog. Check out the show notes for this episode and also our 100+ episodes of Sales Lead Dog. Be sure to subscribe so you get all our future episodes as well. Reed, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great talking to you, and welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Pack.
Yeah, likewise, Chris. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a joy.
As we end this discussion on Sales Lead Dog, be sure to subscribe to catch all our episodes. On social media, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Watch the videos on YouTube, and you can also find our episodes on our website at impellercrm.com/Sales Lead Dog. Sales Lead Dog is supported by Impeller CRM, delivering objectively better CRM for business, guaranteed.